Hey everybody, this is Rustin Rose with Metalholic Magazine and AXS Entertainment, and with us today, the amazing Oscar Dronjak of Hammerfall. How are you doing, brother?
I'm doing fine, thank you. How are you?
I am doing absolutely wonderful. It's an honor to get a chance to chat with you. I can't believe in all the years I've been doing this is the first time we've ever spoken. So, here you are, 20 plus years into Hammerfall. So.
It's about time, I guess, then.
Yeah, it is. So first off, I understand congrats are in order. There's a new member to the family, your daddy.
Yeah, thank you very much. It's he's 7 days old, or 8 days today, or 7. 9, sorry. It's 9 days today. But you know, time just gets mixed up. The days, I don't know what day it is today. Yeah, well, I know now because I looked at my watch, but before that, I had no idea. You know, if it's Wednesday or Friday, it doesn't really matter because every day is more or less the same. You're walking around in a sleep-deprived days, more or less.
Absolutely, I remember those days. So congratulations on that.
Thank you very much.
As we mentioned a moment ago, 20 years ago, as grunge was trying to drive a stake through the heart of heavy metal, you started Hammerfall and were one of the few bands to keep melodic heavy metal alive. Does it seem a bit surreal that 20 years has gone by already?
When you look at it that way, yes. And if I think about what I did 20 years ago, it's ridiculous. I mean, it's half my life, so it is a huge portion of my it's everything in my career, but it's a huge portion of my life that I have been devoting to Hammerfall. So it feels crazy that it's 20 years ago now. But I feel, on the other hand, totally different than I did 20 years ago. So some good came out of it.
Absolutely. Well, and back then, you know, and I've heard you in interviews talking about this before, you know, grunge was happening here in the States. Over where you're at, death metal was the big thing, and you were in a death metal project or two for a while. What made you decide to push out and do this form of heavy metal that was sort of dying?
Well, I started out playing this type of music, heavy metal in the way that, like for example, with Accept and Judas Priest and those kinds of bands.
Right.
This is how I discovered music, rock music, basically. So I've always been that has been my my main influence. Even when I was doing death metal for a couple of years, I still had heavy metal as my main influence, together with, of course, the death metal bands that I was listening to at that time. But, you know, how it is, I started playing heavy metal in a band, and then I got into a new school and met some new friends and got some new influences, and then the whole death metal movement was just starting out in Sweden back then. We're talking about 88 now, I think.
Right.
So it was very much underground still, and it was fun and exciting to be part of something so new and something that you could mold into your own in your own way if you wanted to. But at the back of my head, I always knew that heavy metal this is what I love the most. I mean, I love playing in the death metal bands too, and I put everything I had into that. But when I had done that for, let's say, 5 years or so, I realized that heavy metal, I can't let heavy metal go, basically. So I did both for a while, and this is when I formed Hammerfall, obviously. And the reason why I did this was because back in those days, like you said, grunge was running wild. The heavy metal music that I liked and the one that I listened to and wanted to watch bands come and play for me basically did not exist anymore. Very, very rarely. You had bands like Halloween or Manowar or maybe Stratovarius and Ingamma Ray and stuff like that. Those were the ones who were still doing that type of music and releasing records every once in a while, but they were quite few and far in between. I mean, Manowar released 2 albums in the entire 90s, for example, so
right.
There wasn't a lot going on. So we figured, if nobody else is doing it and we want it, let's try it ourselves and play for, start a band that plays the type of music that we want to hear, basically. So that was the whole foundation for Hammerfall in those days. And then, of course, like, it grew and grew, and because we didn't expect anybody to have any kind of interest in this. We expected to play for ourselves and a handful of like-minded people, if there was any, and then things just started rolling, and here we are today.
And who knew? You turned out to be one of
who knew? No, nobody. I mean, it took me years to sort of accept the fact that we were actually a big band now touring the world. I mean, it was surreal even for a couple of years after the first album was released.
Right. So, and now the new album, Revolution, is amazing. You guys took a small hiatus between studio records. You sound reinvigorated on this new record. Did you feel you needed that brief break to sort of recharge or reevaluate?
Yeah, that was exactly the plan. When we decided to take this break, people were the fun of it had been lost a little bit. Not completely, obviously, but the passion for touring and for all the things that comes with it. It was sort of we're lacking in that department. Let's put it that way. And this was a way for us to be able to continue playing. I mean, if we could have just recorded another album right after Infected and that tour, but I think that might have been the death of the band. You know, it was an absolute necessity for us to take a little break and, like you said, recharge the batteries. That's the best way to describe this, because that's exactly what we did. We took a year and a half off from Hammerfall, which meant that we didn't book anything with the band. We didn't really do anything. I mean, I talked to the other guys occasionally, of course, but not on the same level that we are when we were playing together. So it was a very non-Hammerfall period for everybody's lives, and that meant also that people could pursue other interests. That, like for example, Joachim was a part of a cast member of the musical Rock of Ages here in Sweden for a year and a half, actually, over this time, which was something he always dreamed of doing, a musical. So, you know, people could schedule other things without having them ever to conflict with any Hammerfall stuff, because we were completely off for the whole 2013. On the other hand, I started writing songs for the new album after, well, this probably was in September of that year. So, you know, it wasn't completely off. It's hard to stay away from something you love too. But that year that we had, or that I had rather, that I didn't do anything. Well, actually, that's a truth that's not entirely true either, because I spent my 2013 writing a biography about Hammerfall. Well, it's actually a biography about my life, but like my life has been Hammerfall since 1993 or 5 or something like that. So it's basically about the band, you know, but it's also includes my musical history and stuff before that. But that meant also that I got to relive the past a lot. It's quite vividly, actually, because I wrote about every tour, every recording, everything that we have ever done that I could remember. I wrote about that, and I talked to more or less everybody involved, old band members, producers, and, you know, just people around Hammerfall that have been around Hammerfall for parts of or all of our career. And this was really it was kind of like reliving your past, and then after that I had to start writing songs right after that, because I spent 6 or 7 months on writing the book, and right after that I started working on the song. So I was in a real good mind frame for that, having gone through all the albums, all the memories that I had, and all the emotions that I felt from reliving these memories, and that was the foundation for Revolution, and that's how I started writing songs for this album. So I think there's the reason why it sounds the way it does, why it sounds a little bit hungry, a little bit energized, because we were trying to do this all the time, but this time was the perfect timing to do such a thing right after the break, and right after, for me personally, right after writing the book.
Right. Well, I was going to say, in listening to the record, it sounds like you managed to channel the energy and enthusiasm of your debut records and blend that sort of with the maturity and growth of your songwriting over the years. How do you view Revolution from your perspective? That's the most perfect description I've ever heard of Revolution. I can't put it in better words myself. That's perfect. This is exactly how I feel. Nice. Well, glad I could help. And you went back to working with Fredrik Nordstrom, who produced the first 2 iconic albums. Tell us about your choice to do that. Yeah, that was the thing is I've known Fredrik since the 80s, so I have a different relationship with him than just the producer guy. You know, like I've recorded stuff with him before Hammerfall, and I
knew him, like I said, on a different level for a long time. So what the reason we the reason we stopped working with him for Renegade was not because we didn't like what he was doing. We thought every album that he's done with Hammerfall is fantastic. He sounds really, really good. It was just a matter of us wanting to explore other opportunities to keep things fresh. And as an old Accept fan, we got to work with Michael Wagner, who was largely or partly responsible for the Accept sound of the 80s. So,
right.
For me, that was a dream come true, basically, and for Joachim as well. So that was the reason we didn't record Renegade with Fredrik. It was not because we thought Legacy of Kings sounded bad in any way. I just want to clarify that, because some people might think that there was a problem with anything, but this really wasn't. And I think all of us, even Fredrik, knew that eventually we would be working together again, even if we never talked about it really. But it's always been a goal to get back together with Fredrik, and this was the perfect time to do it. Nice,
and it turned out so well. Now, for fans love trivia. I do too. What were the first and last songs you wrote for the record?
Let's see. First one was We Won't Back Down. That was actually, I wrote, this is quite unusual for me. Normally it takes me up to a month. I work on each song a month before it's ready, or my part of it is ready rather, which is usually the music and sometimes some vocal melodies. But I wrote We Won't Back Down in the first half of the first week, and then Ex Inferis in the second half of the first week. So 2 songs in 1 week has never ever happened to me before. That was very, very. But that's because I had so many goals. I was so much pent up creativity that wanted to come out that I forced myself when I was writing the book. I said no, I won't write any songs simultaneously because I need the creativity for the book. But also because I knew what would happen. Probably, if I start writing songs, I'll forget about the book, and I had deadlines and stuff coming up. So I needed to finish that. And I forced myself to wait with the playing, and then how it is when you plug something and then water still keeps running all the time, but you can't get out, and then when you unplug it, everything comes out at the same time, and that's what it felt like when I started writing songs. It went really quickly in the beginning, and the last one was Wildfire. It wasn't when we started recording the drums for the album. Wildfire was one of those songs that we were probably going to record. But who knows what we'll end up with it. It was an instrumental song when we started recording it. But people kept saying that this song is you should probably do make it a vocal song. Like add vocals on it, not make it instrumental. It's too good to be forgotten as an instrumental. Basically, is what people said. Among them was Fredrik Nordström and Anders as well. When we were starting to record the drums. So while he was working on the other songs, after he was working, when the day was over, I went back out into the studio and rewrote the song. I trimmed the fat, so to speak, of Wildfire because it was quite long. It was almost 6 minutes. I trimmed it down to 3.5, 4 minutes, something like that, and added some vocal melodies. They just came to me at that point, and Pontus was involved in that as well. And then Joachim finished it off right in time for his vocals to be sung. It was one of those last-minute deals that my experience usually turns out really good. I have Crimson Thunder from the same album was written in basically the same way. I mean, nobody had ever heard it. Anders hadn't even heard the song before he started recording the drums. I gave it to him when he was almost done and said, "This is another one. Let's record this one." And that turned out really well. The same with what's it called? Not One More Time. One of a Kind from the No Sacrifice, No Victory album. That song I actually wrote in the studio because I had only a template, but I had written that song together with Jesper Strömblad, and I really wanted to include this on the album, so I used the time when Anders was recording something else, or when Charlie was working on whatever stuff between drum takes. I used that time to finish One of a Kind, and it turned out really well. So, I don't like working that way, but the results so far have been pretty good. So, I prefer to have more time to decide and really feel what I think about a song, if I like it or not. But so far, my gut feeling has turned out to be pretty good.
Yeah, I was going to say, sometimes some spontaneity there really adds some flavor to it. So
it does.
You were talking about the book, and I was going to ask you this question anyway, but this sort of comes perfect because you've been dredging all these things up and thinking about them. Take us back to the recording of the debut albums, Glory to the Brave and Legacy of Kings, and maybe share a memory or two of your thoughts of that time, whether it's something out of the book or...
the first album, we did record the first album. This was in November, or was it December maybe, of 1996. And Joachim had been the singer of Hammerfall since May of that year. It was really more or less a fluke, that because he wasn't the actual singer of Hammerfall from the beginning. We had another guy, but then Mika Stan, that was the name of him, the singer from Dark Tranquillity. He was on tour with Dark Tranquillity when we had a gig. So we decided to call Joachim and ask him, do you want to come in and sing this show with us? And he said yes, and it clicked so well that we just started working together after that. But the goal was still not world domination or anything like that. It was more, let's record some great songs. He had a great voice, and the type of voice that I think that the music that we were writing at that time really needed to blossom. And but still, when we recorded the album, we were really green. Nobody really knew what we were doing. You know, we had a passion for heavy metal music and that type of things that we were doing. We had experience of recording music before, but nothing like this. You know, nobody had ever recorded an album like this before.
Right.
And we had really limited funds too. So we had, I think, including the mix, I think we had 16 days or something like that. That's all our money was good for, and we got a really good deal from Fredrik for this as well. So this is all we could manage. So we had to go to work fast. And I remember the day the mix was going to start, and I believe he did the mix in only a couple of days, like 2 days or so, something like that. I think that Joachim was singing through the night to finish the last couple of things on the album right before the mix was supposed to start. And he has never done that before, or never done that afterwards. Let me tell you, it's much more controlled now. But this was what we had to do because we needed to finish the album. But so anyway, my point is, when the album was done, we were all finished, and the recording was done. I remember talking to Jesper at that time, just because we kind of looked at each other and listened to the album. When we listened to the album, I said, like, is this really us? Nobody thought this was possible. We didn't know that this was possible, that we could make an album that sounded this good. We just, tried, but you never knew what was going to happen. So I think that was the sort of the starting point for when Joachim and I realized this as well, that this is actually something that we can build on for the future. We have a great record and actually an actual album deal, even if it was with a small label at that time that was supposed to be released on a small Dutch label called Vic Records in the beginning, but right. Nuclear Blast got a hold of it before that and licensed it from them, and then eventually bought the whole package over. But that's I don't remember much more than that from the recordings. Actually, it went by so fast. I mean, I remember one time in the recording, I went home on the tram, which is what we have here in Gothenburg, and I went to see Yngwie Malmsteen play at a venue here in Gothenburg during this period. I remember that very vividly because I tried to get Fredrik to come with me, but he had some dinner plans with his girlfriend, I think, or maybe it was birthday or something. I don't remember exactly, but so I went anyway myself, and it was a really, really good show. So I just remember that now when I was talking about it.
Yngwie J. fucking Malmsteen. I used to own that t-shirt.
Yeah. I think this is the tour that he premiered these shirts on. At least that's the first time I discovered them. Yngwie fucking Malmsteen, that's who, or something like that.
Yep, exactly.
I remember those.
All right, so last question then before we get out of here. Speaking of great guitar players, I know your hero is Wolf Hoffman. We talked about Accept a little bit. So being a guitar player and being a Wolf Hoffman fan, what are your 3 favorite Accept riffs?
Oh, man, yeah, this is really difficult. I have quite a lot actually that I used to play, but it's one of the riffs that I play a lot. Almost always the first riff that comes out of my fingers when I pick up a guitar and just want to try the sound or test the levels or whatever. It's the intro riff for Love Child from the Balls to the Wall album. I don't know what it is about that riff. If you analyze it, it's not like one of the greatest riffs if you analyze it, but if you listen to it and feel it, it certainly is one of the greatest riffs ever. Well, let's see. I have to think a little bit because I want to pick the right ones. I don't want to just say something for the sake of it. I want to be able to stand by them. Let's see. The Metal Heart riff is one of those. You never forget it either. The intro riff. It's so simple, just unbelievably simple, but it's just right on. It's spot on. I mean. That's the Metal Heart album in particular was the high point of the AXS producing their own albums. I mean, they did it together with what's his name, Dieter Dierks or something, right. I think. But it's pretty clear the way they played everything live and the way the album turned out. It's pretty clear that they had gone over every part and every detail of every song on that album to make them as good as they possibly can. And that's something I have taken from when I realized that. That's something I try to do with Hammerfall as well, to go over all the details in the albums, because the details are what makes a good album great. One more riff, I guess. Oh yeah. Actually, this is another one that's not a totally completely accept riff. It is, but it at the same time, I don't think people would think of it immediately when they talk about it. But there's a riff on the Predator album on a song called "Lay It Down," and I don't know, that to me sums up the accept that existed after when Udo came back the first time and on. Right. This is typical of that era, so to speak. Just the way that they do it, not just the riff, but when the bass and the drums and everything come in and they start playing it together, it's just this is another one I always play when I don't think about it. This is what my fingers want to do usually. Right,
I get that. As a guitar player, I totally get that. They just go where they want to. Cool. All right, before we get out of here, any chance we'll see you over here in America in 2015? And when can we look forward to the book release?
First question, it's not out of the question that we will be back. Nothing is concrete or anything, but there's a chance that we will do at least something in the U.S. next year. But we have to find the right thing, basically. Right. That's what it's all about. But I think it's promising. It looks promising that we will be able to do something. It's been 5 years now. Yeah, well, it will have been 5 years.
It's been a while.
Next year, so yeah, it's kind of par for the course for us. We've been 4 or 5 years in between tours over there for throughout our career, which right. I think it's not good. I mean, that's not how you build something, but it's just the way it happened for us, unfortunately. As far as the book goes, releasing I don't know. We have an agent, or the publisher has an agent working on it, but I can't really. Unfortunately, I can't say anything because I don't know anything. The agent is working on getting it translated, and when it does, I think English is the primary language. It should be English and German, if you ask me, because we have a pretty big following in Germany too. Right. But as far as this right now, it's not no schedule or anything. But I think they're working on it at least. That's as much as I know and as much as I can say. Unfortunately, I wish I could say it's going to come out next year, but hopefully. Hopefully.
Well, fantastic. We'll look forward to that, and then maybe you and I can sit down and talk again when the book's getting ready to come out. So on our way out the door here, what song should we play off the new album?
Because it's really sunny here today, and I'm happy that I have a newborn son. I think you should play Live Life Loud.
That sounds perfect. Live Life Loud here on Metal Nation Radio. Oscar, thank you so much for taking the time, and we hope to see you real soon.
Yeah, absolutely. Take care. It was really nice talking to you.